Hashimoto, there's an interesting one in fourth.
Okay.
Gee, he's been consistent, hasn't he? We know he's got a really
Ah,
good kick on him, but he's proven his timing and strategy is pretty brutal as well. I think he's surprised a few people um, over the weeks just by coming out of not nowhere, but just by sitting in, looking after himself, and then still being there and being quite dangerous in the finish.
yeah. Hashimoto, I didn't realize he was in fourth. I thought that a Deepak rider had got in there, but obviously I got the kits a bit confused. So, yeah, awesome to see there. I'm loving Hashimoto's style. He's pretty aggressive, even though his team, isn't in that battling out for the top position. He's riding pretty well. Maybe hoping to get picked up and a bit of recruitment going on. But looks like Pat O'Connell here from WTRL, just pushing pace a little bit. It's flattened out a bit. That massive group behind will end up catching up. Um, but what do you think's in store for round number two? I mean, probably not another fastest segment as they did in the first lap, but there will be points for first across the line. Is it going to be a Deepak sort of clean sweep, or will Beast Mode sort of mix things up a little?
Oh, I mean, I'd be interested again if we can get those um, split times through. That'll be interesting to look at the fastest segment times because, of course, it's not only about the sprint. So take a look at that. Morgan 604.3, 604.3 for Zilsa as well. So they're both, and that kind of goes to show how they climbed it. It is how they finished over the top, but that isn't always the case for somebody who's moved up. Ed Morgan, interestingly, we commented, Anna, on the fact that when they had that slightly flat section on climb one, he actually went into the orange to move up positions, which is, oh, hold on. We've got an invisibility cloak here with
Oh,
Strachan. Oh, a bit of a gap opened up. Not a huge one, though. He didn't really
no.
get the gap that I think he was intending, but that will definitely cause some reaction in the bunch.
Oh,
And
here we
look at
go.
all of these power ups that are being dropped.
There's Lindsay, their aero power up, smashing this climb with his teammate B Jones right on his tail with the feather. He'll probably come around and beat Lindsay actually here. But look at that. Jones first, Lindsay second, looked like Bevan third. Clean sweep, Deepak. Beast Mode coming in fourth. So I don't think I'm going to eat my words tonight. I think Deepak knows how to race this course, and they are putting on quite the show.
You're almost sounding a little bit cocky over there, Madam Russell. I think that you could be right. Look, they've done a pretty good job, but what if? Now, just a what if, because, you always need a dissenting voice to keep it interesting. What if Beast Mode are just biding their time because in earlier weeks they've gone too early almost every time? What if they're just sitting back and letting Deepak do their bidding and we might see them come to the fore in the back end?
I would say that would be a
What if?
terrible strategy. I think I think they're just well and truly getting beaten here by Deepak. I think those points are huge across the line, and they will not be wanting to get beaten. Look at that, first, second, third. And what do we know about James Bevan? He can sprint. He's still up with this front group over these climbs. If he can stay up there over the third climb, come into that last sprint, then yeah, he's gonna be able to take out this race. I think pretty. I wouldn't say easily, but even 1, 2, 3, 4 Deepak. Fifth beast mode, and then not another beast mode until TM down in eighth. I mean, if that's a strategy, well, let's have a look. Oh, and updated points here as
Well,
well with Sam Lindsay, 18 points, Morgan, 17, Hashimoto doing well with 16 points, another Deepak with Ben Jones and 13 points. So, yeah, this is quite a masterclass. I'm liking the Deepak strategy over the beast mode one, okay? But you keep trusting in them.
yeah, no, look, I hate to say it, Anna, but I think you're probably right on this one. We'll just see how it plays out toward the end. Bevan, I'm excited by how well he's climbing. Do you remember how well he climbed in Innsbruck over the leg breaker? Some of the power numbers he was putting out were making our eyes boggle out of our heads. So to see him still there in quite a small group, consider the way that they're climbing is definitely to look after. It's not to stop start, because stop start can really hurt sprinters' legs a lot more than if they just keep it a reasonably consistent speed. So I'm curious as to whether that's part of their strategy to keep as many numbers as they can there without keeping the bunch too big. It's a bit of a fine line, isn't it? You don't want to keep the pace consistent enough that there ends up being 70 riders, but equally you don't want to break it up so much that you end up getting a bit outnumbered. Can you see that comment on screen? You're not kidding anybody with your extra letter there, Samuel. We know exactly what you're saying. I've got to agree with that sentiment, I might say as well. But quite funny that he's chosen to put that up publicly.
It's sort of like playing your hand, right? It's in real life you can look around and see someone just puffing and going, "This sucks," but to have someone write it on screen, they're really showing their hand a little bit. But they'll start a bit of banter. I mean, people are probably really hurting, and it looks like we will just cross over to Bemrose for a finish. I've actually just realised I'm friends with Bemrose on Facebook. Jessica Bemrose. I forgot she guest rode for our Saris the Pros Closet team over lockdown earlier in the year. So I had actually been on Discord with her and talked with her. 4 kids she has, and was trying to convince me to have a few more. I said it was great with 4 kids. So she's obviously doing extremely well with that number of kids to get on her bike and train and be able to put in a performance like this. So still riding at 4 watts a kg. Very impressive, Jessica. Very, very impressive.
So she's super mum, and maybe look at that. Well done, from Danette Shaw. I love the sportsmanship amongst these ladies. It is something that you really don't see in any other space. How supportive and polite they are to each other. I think it just goes to show what a fabulous community is, isn't it? That's unreal. But Jessica Bemrose has had a standout ride today. For all the times we've commentated on how strong she looks and how consistent she is, I think this ride today kind of puts her in a new level. That gap is down to the 1 minute 10 mark now, but the fact that she's kept it over a minute after attacking on that second climb, that is some pretty good time trialing from her. And she's even replying, thanks, Danette,
while amazing.
Smashing them by more than a minute. That is mum of 4 and can still reply at the back end of a dominating race. That's pretty impressive.
That's just amazing. These girls are just awesome, and all those comments are just fantastic. They recognise a good race when they see it, and they're giving her the kudos for it. She comes around now, drop that arrow, it doesn't really matter at the moment. There's no one around her, and across the finish line for probably one of the most dominant, well-performed tactical races that I've seen thus far in this series. That was just amazing from Aero. And I do wonder, because there is an Aero female team in the Prem division, I do wonder if Jess is just putting in a bit of a, hey, this is how good I can ride in the community division. You guys pick me up for the Prem. So she could be just putting in a bit of a trial run, which I know some of the Prem teams do. Our team definitely does that, which is have a community league to sort of have people race and pick up their racecraft and show us what they've got, and they might get picked up by the Prem. So there are definitely a few teams doing that, and I would be surprised if Aero wasn't one of them.
Yeah, I agree. Aero's actually got a very polished Prem League team, and they've got some of Australia's, especially in APAC based team, an Aussie outfit. You can probably gives it away. Their kit, actually, the green and gold, but they've got some of our top domestic racers racing for them, including Emily Watts, who won the under-23 road race at the National Championships, the IRL racing, that is, National Championships last weekend. So they've pulled together a very good squad here. Now we're looking at the men's A again. The pace is off a little bit. I mean, don't be fooled by that 45k an hour. Look more at the fact that they're all quite blobbed together in a crew here. Now, Saleh, I'm going to need to get corrected on that pronunciation if that's not correct. Chalet, perhaps, from Beast Mode, just kind of sitting and patrolling on the front a little bit there. So again, I do think that Beast Mode are definitely in the race and wanting to still do something at the back end. We've jumped over to the C's. And Anna, this is more what we expect up the climb. This is a bit more single file and people really moving forward at a fast and rapid rate and equally back. But quite a gap that's opened up here at the front. 6 seconds to Brooke. who's just powering away. High powers, up around the 400 watt mark here.
I'm sort of watching this and watching a lot of the categories in this racing and APAC. I'm surprised at how many sort of solo breakaways have been able to get away on this volcano climb. I mean, in some of the earlier prem races we saw, maybe everyone was just a bit more even, but no one really got away that much in these races. I thought people would just recover in that main pack, use them as pace setters, use the draft, uh, and then kind of keep together till the end. But this has been really impressive. People have put in some good digs, and Brooke here, he could he could be kind of pushing away to take a lead here, but we do see Masters pushing up a big 7 watts a kg to catch on as well. I think he saw some danger there because I think if Brooke and Masters can work together without the others catching on, they could pull away. But that was a roll straight over the top. Poor Brooke, I think he just sort of ran out of steam there at the end with Masters taking full points on that lap. But that's a single file group behind, sort of ones and twos and threes. Looks like there's a group about 4 seconds back. Be interesting to see who's got any gas in the tank to actually bridge these gaps for the downhill, because it'll be vital if they want good positions at the end.
Well, and even if the leaders, when they do go over the top, they are starting to fatigue, and we are seeing that definitely at this stage in the race, because this isn't the first time over the climb, so they've already had to battle this, is that when there's no real group chasing, but it's ones and twos and everything is pretty strung out, the gaps just don't come down in nearly the same way as they do when there's a bit of a pack chasing. So that definitely puts a lot of fatigue in everybody's legs and evens it out a bit between breakaways and then the chasers as well. But Masters, he's got the most sizable gap here. The rest of them, they do tend to be in ones and twos. And I have to think that some of the time these aren't necessarily, what was that, appalling dress sense huddle. I like that. Look at that. They're kind of having jabs at each other there. That's a good one.
I think everyone really cares about what they're wearing now. I absolutely love it. I was just looking here at Masters' bike
Pink
choice.
socks, tell me. Oh, right. I was taken with the socks. You were watching the bike.
I was watching the bike. I just think, probably wasn't the best bike for the course, and he might just get caught on the downhill because of that choice. Looked like he was on a really specific climbing rig, which would be slow on the downhill. We're back here with the A's. Here we go, Huddle. So that's who we're looking at. What was up with what he's wearing? Yeah.
Well, that's kind of an old, but that's like an old ode to one of the retro in real life Tour de France kits.
But that's the issue is it's sort of like charcoal socks, black shoes, weird bike colouring choice. It's I can see I can see why people are sort of mentioning what Huddle there has got going on. Not ribbing him. I like it. I like that ribbing. And talking about great choices, here we go.
Sorry, yes, we can stop talking about the fashion for a second.
But we are back to what I would say is a great fashion choice, the C's here with We Ate the Cake. They've got about 27 seconds gap on Van Eden there from Rave. So obviously Reed and AL here have had a little breakaway. They're really twinning it up. Really going for it, really matching. I like it. And obviously had a great race tonight. So great job, We Ate the Cake. I mean, they're ahead in the table. They're riding really well. They're sort of the equivalent of the Aero in the A category. Looks like A Reed, they must just be coming through to the end here, just approaching this right hand and then a quick left, right, uphill, and then you hit the finish line. So will these guys sprint each other off, being in the same team? Not sure.
Yeah, I reckon they probably will, actually, given how competitive they are even amongst themselves to try and keep improving. There's been a couple of times where we've seen the AHDR or AHDRL crews kind of go across the line essentially holding hands. But for every time we've seen that, we've seen half a dozen sprinting each other all the way to the finish. So, maybe it depends what kind of mood they're in. But Sal is dropping every power up toward the end, so I don't think she's conceding in any way possible. So the A's ended up finishing around the minute 7 Minute 4 mark is what, or a little bit slower, what they're looking at. Um, so the C's, we're looking at the Cruzettes here. They've got a great supporter base, and some really cool engagement on social media. So I love it when people come out to support and make sure they want to see their riders. So we're looking at Joyce here, and she is taking a little bit of a breather. We can tell that by looking at her power, that it dropped, under 200 for a little bit there, just trying to get a little bit of recovery. Her heart rate is dropping, which is good. They've gone over the mountain 3 times now, so they just need to get down that other side, and get to that essentially sprint finish. It's a pretty tough sprint finish, though. The A men are about to start their final climb, I think. So let's see if we can jump over to them, because this will be a chance for some fireworks.
It will be. And let's see, Kate, if Beast Mode has heard you and maybe they were holding off for this final climb, and they'll take all the points in this one, have a massive breakaway, and go top 5 over the finish line. So we'll see if that happens. Kate, I'll hold out and see, but you might owe me a drink at the end to see if that strategy ended up panning out and working well.
Well, look, I forgot to send you a photo, but I actually found a pair of Bilby socks. And socks, yes, I mean for your feet, the other day. And I did mean to send you a photo.
Where
so
else do you
perhaps
put
if
socks?
I win, yeah, well, I just didn't, I was just clarifying the piece of clothing I was talking about there. But perhaps if I win tonight, or this season, if we have any wagers, then you have to rock the Bilby socks in the Zwift world. That might be a little win. You'll have to dream up something in retaliation for me.
Oh, fantastic. I'm great at bets. I'll be dreaming something up, that's for sure.
Oh dear, what have I started?
Oh, this is so good. But one thing I do think is interesting, when these guys are climbing up the hill, you don't see, as I just say that though, Lindsay's gone off the front, you don't often see the Deepak riders. They are sitting in the bunch. But Lindsay, 11.3 watts per kg, huge dig off the front. 1 second up now over, and it looks like, do you remember this? Kay Ch from Cryogen was the one who out-sprinted Lindsay up Innsbruck a few weeks ago. So there's a nice little battle between Kay Ch from Cryogen and Lindsay, and Hashimoto, one of our favourite riders, sitting there in third now. This is a big effort with quite a ways to go till they hit the top of this climb. It's flattening out here over this boardwalk, kicks up again, but then they're not that close to the finish. So that was a very early attack from Lindsay. Not sure if this might be a 1-2 effort with their next rider pushing off the front, but that's actually dropped a few of their Deepak riders. So not sure what they're playing at there.
Yeah, it's a curious one, because that was a big move by Sam Lindsay, and it was right when we were kind of discussing, do you go early, do you leave it a bit late? But the position they're currently in is the least ideal position they've been in all day, because they've got Hashimoto and Ch up there. So only one Deepak in that top 3. Bevan, we're watching now. He's that incredibly powerful sprinter that they have. He's sitting pretty in that bunch. Ride of the day, regardless of what happens. This is one of the best days of climbing that we've seen from him, and I think this kind of indicates some pretty big things to come. So if he can just hang on, and he's actually looking pretty comfortable sitting in the middle. Where are my beast mode riders, Anna?
Yes, where
I need
are
a
they?
few more of them. It's a good question, isn't it? There's Morgan from Evo sitting at the back. He won't help me in the old bet stakes today. But this is a bunch of 3. This gap is not significantly big enough that it won't come back down, I don't think. This is actually dangerous for Deepak, because O'Connell has now jumped across from the Pioneers. Lindsay's outnumbered, as is Deepak. He's attacking again, dropping the power up, which is a good move to get those intermediate points over the top. But he is not in good company amongst those 4, and Deepak will want to shut this down. Bevan, he has responded, and he is coming across as well. This will be better if Bevan can get there.
That was amazing from Lindsay. I thought for a while they had been dropped off the pack, but he was obviously just up there sort of biding his time for that sprint, as we're seeing a big sprint there from Bevan. Massive sprint. Not sure why he was doing that. It was a little bit of a bridge move there from Bevan. So maybe this is Lindsay's definitely eased up. He's just looking for Kacher to get off the front, and they'll all just go down as one big pack. But is that a Lindsay 1, 2, 3 up that KOM? I feel like it might be. That was pretty phenomenal. So great times there by Deepak, and we do, it looks like, still have 4 beast mode riders and maybe the full suite of Deepak, with, unfortunately for everyone around, Bevan there, who we know is an extremely good sprinter and very impressed. He's stayed up 3 times up this climb, so maybe he's been putting a bit of climbing work, because I know in Innsbruck he did drop off the pace just a bit. Really was just there for the sprinting. So very impressive work from Bevan tonight.
We do have 4 from Beast Mode. Zilsa, he's been pretty strong all day. Hats is up there as well. Chalet, he is sitting pretty comfortably in there. So they've still got 4. They're in the orange jerseys. They're pretty easy to see there. But Deepak, well, their jersey, what do you reckon about this, Anna? I reckon their jerseys are pretty understated in that black and white. I think especially on a dark course like the Volcano, they're not particularly obvious in the pack.
I know, but they're all on those bright yellow Trons, right? And they've kind of got that
So they
white
kind
bit
of
at the
give
back.
it away with that.
I just can't say anything bad about them, Kate. You know, like, they're just great
Yeah,
strategy.
that's true, yes.
Winners.
That's true. What was I even thinking?
I do just want to say that Kacher, his name is Ken, I've just been told. So there we go. We don't have to say Kacher. It is Kenn. So, and apparently a beast. So will be good to see Kenny go up against it at the finish. They go down this downhill, and then everyone will get a bit sort of tetchy there, riding a bit cagey, and that sprint sequence is going to be super interesting with that little sort of 5%er leading into the Volcano, and then all those twists and turns. It's all about timing.
I'm very happy to call him Ken the Beast, if that's what we shall moving forward. Sam Lindsay, a little bit of a look at those segment points because they're interesting. Sam Lindsay, Deepak 28. Hashimoto, hasn't he been consistent today on 25? But Ed Morgan, Ben Jones, James Bevan, Deepak. So they are certainly on top today. Ollie Zilsa and Christoph Team, they are representing beast mode. Now, Paul O'Connell and Kenny the Beast, they were the 2 that were pretty impressive over the top with Lindsay in that last climb. So sometimes these segment points, we need to remember they're segment points. They're not necessarily reflective of how people's legs are feeling toward the back end of this race. So remembering it's just over the 40-kilometre mark, 41 and a half, they don't have too far to go, which is pretty solid bunch at this point. And honestly, I thought it would be a smaller bunch given how reduced it was on that first lap. But it hasn't gotten too much smaller over those last 2 laps, actually. And with Bevan there, it's honestly very hard to think that any other rider really fancies too much of a chance if it's just a straight drag race.
Yeah, I think this pack hasn't got smaller because when Lindsay, say, has gone off and taken all the points, he's very much eased up on the top and let his teammates catch up. I think if he had any desire to work with, say, Kenny around him, they could have gotten away and maybe had a smaller group of about 5, just sort of burnt off the legs behind. But I think they're playing the team game here, which is smart because they know they've got some of the better sprinters. And so that's why we're still seeing a relatively big group here with quite a few of the big teams represented. So, you know, we've talked about Deepak and Beast Mode, but you've got World Elite Zwifters and also an Evo rider in there. They're always on the magenta with the magenta kit, which they're very proud of. And so some good team representation here in this group. So it's not too many solo riders sitting there, which is nice to see. Some teams have been working well together.
I hope somebody has a ghost and drops it for a late attack in the sprint. That is my hope, because what a brilliant move that would be, and what a change-up that would cause as well. So that could be very interesting. Nicholas Ranker, the beast mode rider, he is coming to the front there, but a couple of their other riders are quite a ways back. Deepak, they're all bunched up there about mid-pack as well. Fabian Devola, he's another one that has a very good sprint if it comes down to that. They just need to think about Deepak, what strategy they're going to use in that sprint, because I think the most frustrating thing, especially for the sprinters, is when they're expected to win but they don't pay the very close attention to the strategy, almost because they just assume that they can win. And so I want to make sure that the DPAC lads are all chatting about that and making sure that they're really well organised for that finish. And they're doing that on Discord usually, right, Anna? That's how they're going to be
Mm.
communicating coming into this finish.
Yeah, they will be. And what these teams have to be a bit careful of is something we highlighted at the end of the Yorkshire course where Hashimoto got away. And Hashimoto, and that's an invisibility that we've just seen drop there from Jay Hunt, 11 watts per kg. This is that little kicker before they head into the volcano. Obviously, Hunt doesn't have much of a sprint, so he's trying to go early. I don't think it's ever a strategy that really works on this volcano one. I think it's always good to go just after the sort of left-hand corner, but it's got a little bit of a gap there. 2 seconds. We've got a WTRL rider catching up, but Bevan moving to the front from that DPAC Elite squad. But this might have been just what I was saying. A rider, like we saw Hashimoto and Yorkshire push ahead and everyone look at each other. But we see Morgan here. Awesome job. Awesome drop of that invisibility. Perfect. Absolutely love it. Looks like he's getting pretty close to finish. It kicks up to 4%. Just appeared. Looks like he'll just be passed potentially by a teammate there with Jones and Bevan. Look at that. Huge numbers from Bevan. And those are a lot of yellow bikes across the finish line.
Almost, it almost looked like Bevan left it a little bit too late there, but that was really good use of the power ups there and the ghosting to make that finish pretty interesting. Hashimoto, where did he finish up? Because this is a replay. We're watching Morgan just attack and take that early move there, but they reel him in. Oh, just in enough time and keep that pace pretty high. Look at those power ups being dropped
Oh,
left, right, and center. Jones, or he gets it on the line by the looks. Bevan, just over the top. We actually thought he might win
wow.
really convincingly, Anna, but that ended up being tight. But maybe that was the strategy that Jones go. Bevan is the last one to go over the top there. Pretty well executed by Deepak. And I really
Oh,
want
that
to
was
see
amazing. And
where yeah, I want to see where Hashimoto ended up because I like him in a sprint. I also want to see where Kenny the Beast finished because he was on pretty good form today.
it's about
But that was,
6. Looks like, yeah. Yeah, I think
I've
Kenny
got
the
to
Beast
give it
about
to you.
6.
I think you picked it today, Anna. I mean, am I eating my words? I don't know, but well done, well called. You nailed that one, and Deepak certainly dominated there at the finish.
Yeah, I mean, I loved what Jones did here. Went early with that ghost power up on that little bit of a climb, but man, like you've got to have some good legs to hold it for that long with people like Bevan chasing you behind. Bevan actually looked like he had a perfect use of that feather power up. Just when it kicked up at the end was when you saw him dropping it. So very, very good work there from Deepak with it looks like first and second across the line. As we're back here with the B category, someone from Zwift headquarters here, or Gallo, looks a little bit isolated. Someone's 6 minutes 30 ahead and then 4 minutes behind. So not a pleasant position to be in. There's a lot of solo work you're going to have to do, and this looks like the chase pack. Just a bit back there. So just there we go. Here's the front pack of the men's B category. A lot of Aquatrons there. I wonder what group that is. APAC it looks like. Vision APAC. So yeah, they're doing pretty well there. A few riders disappeared. There wasn't a whole lot of ghosts. There was just a few riders disappearing there. And yeah, Vision seems pretty well represented in that front group. And I'm not sure of who's got the sprint prowess there, but we've just seen a masterclass in sprinting. So we'll see if these guys can follow suit.
There were a few big gaps between groups, but actually the groups themselves have decent number. But it is quite a different dynamic than we saw in the A men, which is again quite a different dynamic to what we saw in the women's A racing. And it is one of the toughest courses, but it does seem a course that you can still really choose how the race plays out. And which I think is an interesting course. It's not so difficult that everyone's finishing in ones and twos. In fact, we've got some decent sized packs here.
Yeah, it's very different to Innsbruck, which I would have thought was a hard course as well. But that was just it's kind of anyone for themselves, basically, up that 20-minute climb. Whereas this one, you really, even if you're really struggling with that flat portion at the top and you drop a nicely timed arrow, you can jump back onto the group, recover, and then numbers 2 and 3, they're just slower up the climb. So tips for next week, just hold on that first climb. As we see Rasmussen here from Evo, he's put down a feather doing this same move we just saw in the A category, up to 11 watts per kg. Now this is something that could stay away because those watts are huge, but they're starting to drop a little bit now as we see JB also from Vision catching up behind on that aqua bike. They're not using the magenta like they do in the A category, but on those aqua bikes, Vision, he looks like he's going to get caught. Unfortunate. I don't think that early move will ever work, but attacking over the top, maybe that was the team tactic there. Pull up your other rider, JB, here. He goes for it over the top and maybe takes us out. I think, hopefully, with that rider catching. There we go. So that was maybe a team tactic.
Well, was Rasmussen the sacrificial lamb? Was he a little bit too keen? Either way, Vision took a really great victory there. That was pretty good sprinting at the end. I love the use of a power-up, a feather power-up in a sprint. It's one of my favourite moves because everybody looks at a feather and so often puts it into the box of just being for climbing. But it's smart and it shows that you've really considered all the different scenarios when you actually use it in the sprint. Of course, Anna, I could be giving too much credit. Perhaps it's a case of that was the power-up he had left and so he just decided to drop it.
Yeah, I mean, it does end on a 3% grade, so it's always a good one still on that sprint. So I think you're right, Kate. I think it's a good one. And it actually, since you've said that to me, I have tried it, and it is a good power up in a sprint because you do get a little kick straight off the mark. So I do like it. Not being a sprinter myself, it is a nice one to get a little advantage of everyone. Looking at the C category here, we've got Masters looking at leading out the pack by about a second, and they've got a good sort of 7-second lead on Proven and a few other of those riders who looks like there's 2 or 3 small groups on the road. Different kind of bike choice here. So on a more climbing rig, maybe that's going to potentially pay for it on the downhill. Yeah, it looks like the S-Works, not the Venge though. So potentially more of a climbing bike. So I'm not sure it's the best bike choice for this course, but maybe, it depends on what level you're on. But I'd usually go the Canyon Aero Road if you're a low level with some very aero type wheels. And Douglas has just jumped straight on his wheel. And this is that great, the kit with the beer in the back, which we've talked about at the start of the show.
Yes, the beer rollers. We love them. Yeah. Yes. Look at that. That's fabulous.
There's that beer sitting
little
there.
Beer bottle on the right.
So good. Yeah, I love it. It's kind of almost like Dirt with their little baby bottle and the beer rollers with their beer bottle. It's a nice little transition of life, I think.
Yeah, well, look, I think if you are mimicking your avatar and actually putting a bottle in your back pocket while you're actually on Zwift, then you'd certainly want to be one of the beer rollers versus the dads inside riding trainers, because that would be a bit of a sour taste, wouldn't it? Reaching for a bottle mid-Zwift there.
Oh,
but it is pretty cool that they do have their own kits and they are able to jazz it up a little bit there. I think that's pretty cool. Now, this is interesting because Proven is now jumping back on. So Masters and Douglas will now become 3 instead of the 2 that they had going on, which will vastly change the dynamics of any sprint. So Proven's done a really good job. In the aero tuck too, he knows his game. He's paying attention here. And we've seen in that sprint, Anna, that you can definitely go too early. And we've seen it won in every case by riders who have been the late to come. Now, this is the big pack chasing, and they're only 11 seconds back, so they may well get on too if they keep this up. Isn't that a bit of a different dynamic for that sprint finish if it goes from 2 to 3 to what would be about 13? So this is interesting. They're chasing pretty hard and they're moving very quick.
Yeah, this pack will move a lot faster than those few in the front, so I wouldn't be surprised if they do get caught up. And there's probably some sprinters in here. I would look at the ones in the yellow and black because they're really just sort of chilling at the back waiting to get pulled up. They may be good sprinters who just think, oh, this is great. Beast Mode already commenting on the feed saying, good race, Deepak, we'll see you next week. So, Yeah, this is one of the better battles in the competition. Next week, Richmond finishing with a Libby Hill after party. So quite a different course. Could actually suit the likes of Beast Mode with that sort of 1.5 minute full power effort. So we'll have to see what happens next week. But yeah, back with C category here. I think they will make the catch. So good job, this chasing pack. They didn't give up. And they've probably pulled up some sprinters who'll be licking their chops with anticipation for a couple more kilometres, and they'll be hitting those big numbers.
I wonder if that's what the choppers are named after. Licking their chops with anticipation. I like that one. It does show that it is not over until it is over, and it is absolutely worth chasing over the top and keeping the pressure on the descent, because often catching a small bunch on a descent is quite a different flavor of race than when they are just simply attacking over the top. And it's a lot more about the power to weight. In fact, a lot of the riders who would struggle over the climb might really find their feet if they do push that pace down the other side. I do think they will regroup here. So, very different scenario to what we saw a kilometre and a half ago, where we thought that Masters and Douglas were riding away. Dan Proven, he jumped across, joined them, but now that big group will rejoin them just in a second. I wonder if we will have anybody take a bit of a flyer pass, because that would be a bit of a savvy move. But they will be carrying a bit of fatigue, having just chased back on.
Yeah, I think that would work if they were a bit closer to the bottom. They do have this little downhill bit here, so but yeah, I do like that fly move. I think it's a really sort of courageous one when you've caught up. Starting to rain here around the volcano, which is not going to be great for their sprinting at the end. It's going to be a bit dangerous, but I wonder if we'll see a little bit of a a flyer move off the front, which we've seen in that B category before, which I said at the time it was a mistake, but when I saw his teammate coming up, what happened, and I have actually covered this before, this sort of fakey surprise attack. A teammate goes off the front, and go D Proven. Great to see some fans out there, but someone goes off the front and fakes out someone else in the bunch to go chase it down, and then on jumps a teammate onto that chasing wheel, and that pulls them right up and they sprint over top. So it's not a good move if you know your team, like all the other teams, really well, because you can kind of anticipate that it's a fakey move. But it's really interesting because if you make the fakey move and no one chases you, you're going to win. So there's not much to lose there if your teammate can get on that chasing wheel. And I liked how that played out in the Bs. These guys are just about to come up to that climb, so we'll see what happens here.
Well, the flavour of a sprint lead out in Zwift versus IRL is quite different. And often in Zwift, it favours those fakey moves. Is this Proven going with the Ghost? No, Yates, it looks like. No, Plummer. Look at that. Even the Ghost gets us. That was a good move by Plummer. He didn't get that massive gap, but Masters has actually capitalised on that, jumped across. I don't think he will be able to keep this break going, because Douglas is pushing very fast from the back. And sadly for Plummer, he now has no power-ups left. But here's another move by Dalton with the Ghost. This is opening up the gap.
This is serious. Yeah, this is good. That was a
it's
great
a
use of the Ghost
burst,
there.
though, isn't it, with that Ghost? It's not long.
Yeah. 10 seconds, and this aero power up used here by Douglas from SABR. I think that might be the winning move because he's so close to finish. Puts in another little orange dig to the line, but we've got a very close with Via Lager there with a late push to the line, but that was awesome timing from Douglas. Very good. Took it around that left-hand turn right before the finish. Perfect there. Great timing.
Well, that was all about the timing again, wasn't it? We saw that in the last couple as well. And Dalton was motoring along, Douglas in the orange behind, but that wasn't quite enough to jump right back on the wheel. And Dalton, he was just hanging on, wasn't he, coming into that finish, because that gap wasn't getting any closer. But Douglas, he was able, look at that, Anna, he was really able to use that slipstream to just flick around him at the end, because for a while there, it looked like he was just not going to bridge that gap. But the drop of that aero power up, and he just hangs on. Late charge from Via Largo, but he won't quite make it across, and Douglas will take the win there ahead of Via Largo for second. That was a pretty good finish. And And that finish were riders that we didn't see until the last couple of kilometres where they actually bridged back across. So those three that originally were in the front, they weren't able to finish it off. That's a good bike race.
Yeah, that was awesome. So they caught up. Obviously, some people in there had good legs. We saw it at the end. Again, we saw a bit of an early attack that didn't work. So I'd say for anyone racing next week, don't do that move. Even if you're feeling good, I'm not sure it's going to pay off for you unless you're doing as a team tactic. But that's my little handy hint. Don't do the early attack.
Well, you're very polite, and I think tonight that you've proven that your advice is very good, as is your race picking. We saw that in the Amen. Let's take a look at any results that we might have through, and of course the rest of the results we can see over at WTRL.racing because it is a long day out on course across the divisions. Jessica Bemrose, what a ride from her. Really showed us stuff there tonight, taking the win ahead of Danette Shaw. Great ride by Danette Shaw as well after being distanced a bit on that first lap. Jenny Pettinan, she will take the best segment time up the climb in third on the day. Busy Butterworth in fourth. Meredith Clark in fifth. Kim Garland. Melissa Denman in seventh. Kiralee Carberry in eighth. Jojo Zulberg in ninth. Jen Reed in 10th. And a very big day for Aero, Anna.
Oh, for sure. Definitely most tactically well-executed race that I've seen thus far. Looking at the Bees, Lan Kong, that was great to see. We didn't actually see that finish, but awesome there, taking out the Bees. Tess Waterhouse in second, Lucy Esdale in third, Tanya Cross in fourth, Simone M in fifth, Kimberly Kern-Stokes in sixth, Sally Smoker in seventh, Sarah Stowe-Hellett in eighth, Wendy Gallagher in ninth, and Tessa Muir in 10th.
Let's take a look at those C's. Aoife Reid took the win ahead of Sally Shuttleworth. Jodie Hamilton, familiar name we love there, sitting in third. Alana Van Eden in fourth. Fran M in fifth. Kaz Turner took sixth. Jen Lewis in seventh. Diane Meek in eighth. Mandy in ninth. And Tamsin Law in 10th.
And in the Ds, Karen Hood took it out with Suzanne Lindsay in second, Mandy Westman in third, Steph B in fourth, and York in fifth, Deb Dreesen Diamonds in sixth, Rachel Hart in seventh, Andrea Robinson in eighth, Joanne Reach in ninth, and Anna Burdekin rounding out in 10th.
Right, some pretty strong results there from the women. Let's take a look at the men. I'm glad their team names aren't here, Anna, or you'd be mocking me. So to start, we'll just go with their names. James Bevan took the win ahead of Ben Jones, and what a finish that was. Richard Barry sitting back in third, Fabian Devola in fourth, Kenny the Beast Churt in fifth, Ed Morgan in sixth, Sam Lindsay in seventh, Pirapong Landgren in eighth, Nicholas Ranker in ninth, and Colm Sheehan rounding out that top 10.
And in the B category, Jay Bester in first, Adam Evans in second, Lee Rasmussen in third, Ryan Sparks in fourth, Richard Spear in fifth, Tristan Harradine in sixth, Peter Mosback in seventh, Simon Tuck in eighth, Michael Curley in ninth, and Trent Burlace in 10th.
All right, let's take a look at the C's. We've got Kay Douglas, who we just saw this sprint. He took the win ahead of Ton Vialago. Jeremy Patch in third. Dave Proven, great ride from him when he jumped across in fourth. Brodie Dalton in fifth. Waratah Masters in sixth. Anthony Plummer in seventh. Jamie Wilson in eighth. Tom Gallagher in ninth. And Steve Yates rounded out that top 10. Anna, we don't have the Ds just yet because it has been a very long day out on course for them. But if you head over to WTRL.racing, anybody can look up any of those results and see how it all rounded out. It was a pretty tough day. And a 41